Welcome to this edition of Optimal Talks. In this series of frank conversations, I will chat to a diverse range of security specialists and industry influencers to explore their opinions and ideas, picking apart some of the key issues we all face today. I hope you enjoy the next 30 minutes. If you do, leave us your thoughts and comments and spread the word. Thanks. My good friend Ivan Ivanovich, who was my host in Mexico City in October last year. And now I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down and picking his brains around the topic of executive protection. Mate, how are you?
Rick, it's a big pleasure to be here talking with you today. Thank you very much for everything, for a great experience we have. I think we both have in UK. It was amazing, as well as in Mexico. Thank you so much. It's a big pleasure.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And we're only returning the favor. Look, you and I have had long conversations face to face around our career backgrounds. They're quite similar. We've both worked in executive protection, close protection. I was Royal Military Police, close protection team leader across Africa and the Middle East. You run a very successful business working out of Mexico City for Latin America and stuff. Why don't you just bring everybody up to speed about you, your background, and WSO and what it does?
Well, as you know, I started in what used to be Yugoslavia, like 30, 40 years ago. I can't remember. I think it was like 35 years ago. It was I started in 1992 in Yugoslavian Security Service, and I have the opportunity to form myself and in executive protection, specifically during that wartime. That it was pretty rough. Then by the let's say the accidents of a fate, I went to Mexico. I started in 1999 to start living in Mexico, and then initially I started with training in executive protection here in Mexico, because back in the day there was not a lot of knowledge about executive protection, and there is not a lot of needs in executive protection here. And a couple of years after that, in 2004, I started a company that later turned to be WSO. Right now, it's a company I have with my great friends and partners that we are covering like 9 countries in US and Latin America, and our main thing is our core business is executive protection. But yes, we have another type of services such as security guards, but and other things. But the main thing is executive protection.
And you also sit on the board of the International Protective Security Board, the IPSB, as we know. Tell us a little about your role with that organization.
Well, IPSB is it's a great organization. I think the first and the first organization kind of specialized, at least at this side of the world, specialized in executive protection, because there was no specifically organizations, strong international organizations that are focusing on executive protection, because, as you know, executive protection needs a lot of research, a lot of coordination, and a think tank organization between professionals. Yes, in ACES we have different committees on executive protection, but the specific organization focused on all the things that we need executive protection is definitely IPSB. And we are, my role specifically in IPSB as one of directors is to organize events. In one of them we have the opportunity to hear your brilliant talk. It was just great. It was IPSB summit in Mexico, and we are also organized the event in Colombia this year, together with Mexico, and
Yeah.
together with the rest of the events of IPSB in Charlotte and in London,
Yeah. Yeah.
as you know, that you're pretty much involved in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it is, getting to become a truly international organization. Now, I know your role in this is important, but you do represent a really strong cohort of security professionals, not just in EP, but across the corporate security sphere within Mexico and Latin America. Some of the people I met at the conference in Mexico City were phenomenal. I learned a lot from that couple of days. But you've taken training in EP to a different level. I know this. We in the UK we have one course for anybody can become a close protection trained person. It's a very basic course. The journey starts there. Some people professionally develop and learn better skills, and some people don't. They just take the basics, and that's fine because there are jobs for all different types of people and different types of experience. You've set up the Executive Protection Lab. That's I got that right. It is the Executive Protection Lab. Why did you set that up in Mexico? For what reason?
Well, as a matter of fact, we call it a lab because that, as a matter of fact, basically Latin America, but very specifically Mexico, uh, we we call it a lab because here, you know, the problem of first of the insecurity of kidnapping started in Mexico something like 1995 with the very high profile couple of very high profile kidnapping, and from that moment on, all the people, I mean, all the instructors from all around the world, I mean, United States, UK, Israel, you name, even Serbia,
Yeah,
you name it,
yeah,
they came to Mexico to teach. And through these 3 decades, there are some countries that you can just work all your lifetime and just nothing happen. You can walk around with your dark sunglasses and your dark suit and your
oh,
cap. That's it, and
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
happen. And you're going to think that the things work, But
yeah,
once you are in the places like in Mexico, when you have a kidnapping frequently, when you have assassination of the principal very frequently, you have carjacking very frequently,
yeah,
you have street robbery very frequently. So you can see really how all those things that you've been taught from all those instructors from all around the world, how they work in the real situation.
yeah,
And sometimes it's very disappointing. So the thing that you might see on movies or that kind of things that we are
yeah.
generally taught in executive protection, I I dare to say that they don't work. They just don't
Oh
work.
no. What do you mean, like diving forward and shooting two guns while you're, yeah, or spinning round with
Yeah,
two,
yeah,
all of
yeah,
that stuff. That's we didn't
yeah,
do that on my course either. I've got to
yeah, of
say,
course.
I've worked in not in Mexico, but I have worked whilst in the Royal Military Police and the Close Protection Unit. Worked in Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, Algeria, around Baghdad, all over Iraq. In fact, I know I've been through. My team had somebody kidnapped in Congo, in Kinshasa. They were kidnapped, and so we know for a fact that as a result of that, we needed, as a unit, conduct after capture training, which we weren't getting before '99. That was in 1999. So yeah, the behaviors um, will impact how you come out of that situation, and knowing how to behave when you've been kidnapped is really important. So it's not just your the EP training, but understanding your actions and the reactions of your captors or your aggressors in response to
Yeah.
your behavior, right?
Yeah, just to point out when I'm talking about the things that didn't work here in that don't work in Latin America, are basically all the reaction based strategies in executive
Yeah.
protection. And at least here in Mexico, US, Mexico, the places I was working a lot, there has always been the mainstream, you know, reacting or any way.
Mm.
And and that reactive approach, just in like last 2 years, in Mexico, we have 22 protectees assassinated and 38 of their agents because they were
Wow.
based on reaction. And just one attack, we have two protectees assassinated and 10 of their protective agents with the big guns. And, and
Ah. So I know you. I mean, your book covers a lot. We're going to go explore your book in a little bit, but that I think it's really interesting. People might be surprised that an executive protection company working in Mexico is not proactive in the use of firearms because it doesn't matter how fast you are on the draw. You could be John Wayne, but you are not going to outshoot somebody that's already got a weapon out and trained on you because all they've got to do is move a finger. You've got to move a whole arm. It's not possible, and that is, I think, is a such a common sense attitude. How did you come to change? What was the thing that instigated the change for you in your attitude towards firearms?
well, I'm going to tell you that from the beginning, my training back in security service in Yugoslavia, as we were intelligence-based organization. I mean, today in Serbia, what used to be my country,
Yeah,
uh, there is a police forces that now are protecting
yeah,
the high individuals. But back in the day, it was the organizations that were related to or were part of intelligence groups. So we know, and we already received the training that once when it come to the reaction of the, let's say, the word bodyguard, the protective agent, everything is lost. So from the beginning, very much my focus was on the proactive measures. And when I came here to Mexico, I realized that it was almost 100% a reaction, 100% weapon. So in the beginning, takes me a lot of time to start to change this mindset,
yeah.
and it still takes. I did a lot of research. We did a research of 137 cases of attacks of on a high level protectees around the world in 60 countries during 125 years. So we want to see in how many of those cases really the weapons the weapons work, and it was so far in this sample 3.65% only. So, and I don't
Wow.
want to say that the weapon is useless in executive
No.
protection and we shouldn't have it. Well, if 6 or 3.7 or 4 or whatever, if that saves your life, you're 100% with respect to yourself, and that's good. But want to point out that we cannot base such important profession like executive protection on the one single measure that is just 3.7
Yeah,
percent effective. So
yeah.
that's the main thing.
I think
And
we,
also,
we
yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
I think back to my training, and it was a long time ago. But my last operational tour was 2009. So I mean, I've retired from the army 14 years. But the training we used to do, the first reaction in a firearms attack was always to get into cover. Once you're in cover with your principal, then you can draw fire to or put down suppressing fire to put their head down while you move to somewhere they don't see you getting where you've gone, and then it's run away. And this was always my thing. I think there's an intuition as in a military sense to attack. when actually everything we were trained to do was to run away under fire and disappear as soon as possible, zigzagging, and taking different routes so it wasn't predictable. And that always stuck with me. So standing there to try and draw in the street where you're just a static figure 11 target was never struck me as a good idea.
Well, can you believe that we have like right now we have 25 years as a company working in executive protection in Latin America, and it's Mexico, it's Salvador, is Ecuador right now, Chile, Venezuela, all those countries, and we don't use weapon, we don't carry weapons.
Yep, that's
That might sound weird, but what we
yeah,
don't, and we did have the situations in which we stop a different, for example, kidnapping and that kind of felonies,
yeah.
but it was not with the weapons
Ah,
because what is our main thing in executive protection is cutting the preparation phases of the attack,
mm,
not waiting for the attack to happen. So I'm gonna tell you a story, the real story of how we stop one kidnapping. We got a call from a person, somebody recommended to us, and he told us, okay, I'm gonna tell you a story. Something weird happened with my daughter. He told us. What weird happened? They tried to rob her, but they couldn't. I was like, okay, how they couldn't rob your daughter? Your daughter is
hmm
ninja or what? And he started talking. And he said, every Tuesday at 2 p.m. And when I hear every Tuesday, 2 p.m., okay, that's the first red flag.
Yep.
I said, okay, what happened? So every Tuesday, 2 p.m., we have a lunch in my house. So my daughter comes, she knocked on the horn, and the waiter comes, open the door, and in that moment a big vehicle just stopped in front of her, hit the brakes parallel to her, but no one get out, nobody got out. She got scared, so what she did, she went to the sidewalk and she escaped.
hmm
In that moment we knew that it was about the last phases before the kidnapping, before the attack, that we call the dry run,
Yep.
a
Yep.
test. So what they are doing with that test, they want to see how the victim is going to react and what to do in the real situation next month or in 2 months. Uh,
Right.
after that, so they will be able to stop her from escaping from the sidewalk and take. And why? Because everything starts, of course, with the hostile intelligence,
Yep.
because they get the information of the victim, then they go and do surveillance. So I mean the hostile surveillance, they
Yes.
analyze the victim, they learn, not always but very frequently. Mexico, they do the dry run, they do that test, and they, when they are very sure what's going to happen, they control all factors, then they come and do kidnapping. So in that moment we realized that we miss the counterintelligence part, and we started in that moment to do the surveillance part, the surveillance detection part, because we
hmm
know that those guys needs to be, that they have to be there. We didn't want to change anything, we didn't want them to, we knew that we probably had 1 month, because
Yeah.
they're not going, after the dry run they're not going to attack so fast, they're not going to attack the next day. So we identify all the cars who was around the principal house. We identify the car, the white Nissan Platina with the police jacket that was hang
Mm,
around the driver's the driver's seat. So when you can see,
yes.
okay, they're police, it's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and then we contact the authorities, and it turns that same vehicle was involved in two previous kidnapping cases. So together with the police, we could get all the gang. So they bust all the gang. They do the interview,
Yep.
interrogation with them, or whatever they did.
Well, yeah, yeah.
And they realized that everything started. We're talking about the phases of the attack. First, with a handsome instructor of spinning in the gym of the where the people where the rich people were going,
Yep.
where that women were going. So the handsome instructor using the the halo effect,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
a nice good looking guy start to talk with with the woman and start to realize where he lives, and she start to give out information. Then they
Yeah.
start with the surveillance. Then they did dry run, and that's where we cut those phases of the preparation. We didn't
Yep.
want to put her agents and then protect her and bodyguards, and okay, so we didn't do that. So we had a different approach, and we cut the phases of the preparation of the attack. So that's something that worked for us.
I no, I love that, because that is a proactive control. We talk about insecurity. We talk about the things that we can control, and we can put proactive measures in of scenarios we can see coming. So you've applied proactive controls that stopped it happening even in the first place. Changing routes is a good thing. So if you can't be predicted, you can't be attacked. But doing the counter surveillance, I think, is really smart. It's probably more akin to what we do in the UK, because we don't have firearms in the UK. And we do try and train people in counter surveillance. These are skills that they should know. But thinking like your adversary is looking through the glasses of your enemy to how would you do it? Because we know where the vulnerabilities are. So you have to think about how your enemy would achieve their aim. And you've just described it perfectly. It's under the radar.
I'm gonna tell you, in 2021 on our EP summit, we brought our countryman. Her name is Olivera Cirkovic. She used to be a leader of the infamous gang called the Pink Panther. So
Yeah. We know that the gentleman burglars.
yeah, the gentleman
Yeah.
burglars. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're famous. That they never
Yeah.
kill anybody.
No.
That they never hurt anybody. That's why she managed to leave the Greek prison so fast. And she started reading books. She's one of the rare person who came from that side, from the dark side to the light side,
Yeah.
because it generally happened the other way around. The people from the light side go to the dark side.
Yeah.
So she made different things. So we brought her to talk about to tell us. I mean, you say you kind of need to think like the adversary, like the criminal. And what I find out that you actually can't think about criminal, because you need to be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have a completely different mindset, but doesn't matter. Talking with her, we understand, and we have a lot of insights of how is their mindset. And we asked her, well, in all the attacks that you had, uh, the people had weapons. Do you afraid of weapons? And she was like, yeah, as a most of the typical Serbian criminals, she's pretty arrogant, And she was
Yeah.
like, oh no, I we're not afraid of weapons. It's for like small level. I mean, criminals.
Mm,
Uh, we don't afraid because we have like 300 actions all around the world that never nobody can do anything with the weapons against us. And then we ask, what do you afraid of? Do you afraid of anything? What are you afraid of? Guess what she told us? She goes like, yes, I do. I am very scared. I'm afraid in the moment when I'm observing the victim. That's
yeah.
the most critical moment for me. She said,
Yes.
why?
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yes.
she said, because when I'm in the attack, I already have my face covered. I'm
Yeah.
hitting in the car. The car is already stolen. They cannot identify me. I have a mask. The car is stolen. They can't identify the car. and we already have everything planned. We hit hard in the moment when when their guard is up. We already know that. But when I'm in the process of observing the victim, I cannot be in disguised. You know, I need to be fully identifiable. I cannot have my face
Yeah,
cover. I can't have my, big
yeah,
thing in the hand or whatever. And I cannot be in a stolen car because I
yeah.
need to be fully identifiable. So she said, in each moment when I was observing a victim and somebody, whoever, approached me and asked me what I'm doing there, or take my plates number or whatever, in that moment I abandoned that victim. It was very interesting.
It's
Can you
we
believe
call
it?
that the power of hello.
Yeah,
We encourage people in security officers in the UK and others, if in a security culture, to challenge. It's okay to say, "Excuse me, who are you? What can I help you with anything? Hello, can I help you?" It lets them know that you've noticed them, and it is a deterrent. So we always want to try and deter, detect and delay and deny an attack, 4Ds, and respond if we need to. Um, but those proactive measures are so good. And what you've just described is perfect. I was talking to insurance brokers yesterday and saying to them that situational awareness of noticing what's around you and the power of hello, because criminals risk assess the same as we do. What can I get away with? And what's the chance of me being arrested and spotted? So if the likelihood of being recognized, identified, and arrested is greater than the benefit that you're going to get in financial terms of stealing or kidnapping, then they're going to go to a softer target. And all we have to do is present that. And that's not a reactive drawing your gun to shoot. That is a proactive security measure. I love that came out, because that is not unique to executive protection. That is security 101.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I think actually, it's interesting because society is changing, right? Societal perceptions of what is acceptable in security and especially in EP is different. I don't know whether, so in the UK we have the people we see around London that have three big black cars driving. They don't need the security. It's generally a big ego thing. They want to be seen to have big, huge man-mounting security officers that block the pavement that tourists can't walk past because they're intimidating. But if you asked them to run 50 meters, they would probably have a heart attack. How is it? How is it in Mexico? Are you seeing a societal perception change?
There is a huge change from the moment when I came to Mexico until right now, because when I came to Mexico, it was the society was very vertical, and it was pretty much normal, even in the corporate world. And
Yeah,
because of all those kidnapping, which started in 1995, that out of a genuine fear, many of them, yeah, they did have it like an ego thing, but many of them, they were really afraid, and they really had they had around them like diamond formation and all that kind of stuff,
yeah, right. Yep.
like two vehicles, 8 agents, and that kind of thing. But with the time, the society became much more horizontal, especially corporate world, and the digital revolution, the social media did a great job of changing it, because
Hmm.
it now with the social media, the society became much more participating, and the image of the protectee became much more important. So in that mode, they don't want anymore to be to have a people around them. They want now they give priority to also to their both image and also their let's say privacy.
Yes.
So now they just don't want to have, especially in the corporate world, people around them. and that's something that changed very much the industry, because the security professionals in Mexico generally they only know how to protect you if they just put agents around you. If
Mm.
they want, as if they want to protect the person as they protect the building. You cannot protect the person the same way you're protecting the building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So that's one of the big changes that happened in Mexico, and in the same time the threats became much higher, because before there was a kidnapping threat as a main threat to the executives. Now it's assassination.
Mm.
So that's why the deterrents that were provided by agents in the case of, let's say, commercial kidnapping, because I can see if Rick has 5 guys and Ivan doesn't have anybody, well, then I'm going against Ivan, so because I don't want to need to put more resources
Yep.
to that. And also there is another thing that we call the scarecrow effect, you know,
Yep.
because it, the scarecrow, it's a kind of deterrence, am I right, for the
Yeah.
birds.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and, and there is an habituation process in which the scarecrow is going to be effective, like in the beginning when the
Yeah.
bird doesn't know if this is a man or not, but through the process of habituation the birds just
Yes.
start coming and they realize that nothing happens. So that's pretty much the same thing what happened with this traditional executive protection. When you see like 4 people around the protectee, he said, okay, you cannot do anything here, so I even won't try. But what happened then, the habituation process, when the first attackers start to hit and then another, they realize that it's not real deterrence. And we can see it also even in the first attack in Butler on now President Trump, because
Yes.
you could see the the people with the long guns, the helmets,
Yeah.
reaction, the Secret Service guys, snipers, everything. And what happened? One single teenager. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
One single teenager, because he didn't feel the scarecrow effect. He realized he passed through the habituation process and he realized it. And if we compare how this works between protecting person in space, because it was specifically protection in space, reactive protection, and
Yeah.
in time, and if we compare two assassination attempts on Donald Trump happened last year, one in Butler and another
Yeah.
in Palm Beach, we realized how just one person who did what we call the early alert,
Yeah.
sometimes they call it advanced, but we want to make that change in concept. And nevertheless, it's similar. But he went like 15 minutes before to the place
Yeah.
where the attacker could be,
Yes.
and he found it. So one guy, just one guy in Palm Beach did the job that like maybe 100 people in Butler, we don't know how many people were there, 50, 40,
Yeah.
whatever, couldn't do with the big guns, with whatever. So that's that mindset change.
That's your advanced party, right? I know you've done a lot of research and you work in a slightly different way with your advanced teams clearing the route.
Well, when we do our work, and especially in trainings, sometimes let call it the traditional advance. What the traditional advance do, at least in the places what I'm working, they just they sit in the vehicle and they go from the point A to point B. They check the road. They see there is
Yeah.
not captain is not blocked or whatever. They came to the hotel or venue, whatever, and they are there and they just have it all clear and that's it. And then what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
Well, if somebody is waiting to ambush you, he's not going to be on the road waiting in front of you. He's
Yeah.
going to be hiding in the specific places from where he can quickly approach an attack and then quickly escape.
Yes.
So, what we are doing is that in our route planning, we are checking where those places can be. And so that's thinking as
Yeah.
as a criminal. So instead of our advance, that's what we call it, the early alert.
Yeah.
The principle is the same. We are not just running the route as
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
project is going to do. Instead of it, we are going to all those places that we consider that they can be before the attack, and that
Yeah.
should be maybe half an hour before, maybe more. And we observe the baseline of the one of our main let's say rules is that the protectee should never enter in any place, especially the what we call the scenes, uh,
Yeah.
before that space wasn't observed for a
Yes.
prolonged period of time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the main thing of our early alert operation, and it's amazing what you can find there. In the case of attack on Mexico City chief of police, those guys were waiting on the specific place. Do you know how long? Can you imagine how long were those guys there? There were 15
20,
people with the barretts, with the 50 millimeters barrett. There are 15 guys.
15,
15 guys. One
15
five.
Barretts for one guy. Well, that's
No,
going to
no, no, no.
stand out because
There
that's
were
a
15
4-foot
people.
rifle.
No, there were 15 15 aggressors, and I think there were 2 or 3 barretts, but there were 15 guys in the truck waiting on the specific place close to the
Yeah.
the critical point. Do you know? Can you imagine how long?
Well, I couldn't imagine they could be there more than an hour without somebody
10
spotting
hours.
them.
10 hours.
10.
10 hours.
What? How did nobody report the a truck?
In the most exclusive area
Yeah.
of Mexico City. Why? Because we don't have that mindset.
Yeah. 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 So when you put out your advance, then are you deploying them overt or are you keeping them covert?
As covert as we can. As
So not
covert.
trying to get the deterrence, trying to
No.
identify
Now,
the
we
threat.
try to identify, and once we identify it, we call the protective
Yeah.
vehicle, and we deliver and then we call the police, and then police go in and identify the person. Frequently, it's just nothing, but
Yeah.
as we work this frequently with our protectives day by day,
Mhm.
our early alert agents, they know perfectly well the baseline. In such a big city as Mexico City, in the specific places, those guys know which car is from which person.
Yeah.
Because you're daily there, because
Right.
those persons are parking at that. So where something is off that baseline, that is alert for us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just call the police and say, okay, can you check why this man's vehicle is there? What are these guys doing here in this vehicle?
That's the that's the beauty of local knowledge and that nuanced understanding of what is out of place because you have to try and find the what is abnormal in a normal environment. You drive it, you start to spot things, which is why I think we always try and use local operators within a team. Even if we're deploying, British guys, they need to have local knowledge because you can't learn that unless you are doing those roads day in, day out. Because you're
Day.
focusing on too many other things, local traffic laws, crazy driving, people walking in the streets. Do you stop at crosswalks? Do you not? It's too much.
Too much.
And understanding how to deconflict, not less language skills, but understanding the environment you're in takes a long time. In the tours I went on, 6 months, it took a month to even start to understand, to know the way the rat runs and all the routes that you could go in a city like Khartoum. It took a month. Then you had probably 2 or 3 months of solid work. Then you're ready to, handing over. You're preparing for the next team. So I know
Yeah,
how long it can take.
but you agree that you need a local support. Doesn't matter
Yeah,
however you're working, if it is official, unofficial, corporate, or whatever. You need local support. At
Well,
least that I
we always used to have local drivers
yeah,
wherever possible,
wonderful.
not in
Yeah,
Baghdad, but
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
in
That's great.
in the embassy would have local drivers. I would be protecting British ambassadors, have local drivers. We train them to our standard of driving reactive skills. Not to be a close protection officer, but to be a protective mobile skills driver, a defensive driver. So you know that the best, if you've got a great driver, they're going to get you out of trouble before you
Before, yeah,
end up with an immobilized vehicle.
or any kind of, if you're just stopped by the police, as a
Yeah,
foreigner in foreign country, and it's not the same.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I do, so we talked about you have your proactive reaction controls to risk identifying, route planning. So how important is it to be doing dynamic risk assessments? The what if somebody shoots off this roof? What if somebody jumps out in front of my car? What if somebody tries to stab my client as we walk into the hotel? That you have to have both skills, right? So how do you train people to deal with the
Well,
reactive controls?
that's what you said. It's very What you're saying is very important, and both in our operations and our courses, I always sit people and tell them, look, now what you need, the ground, what's going on, what's the mission about. Now you need to tell me at least three things that are most likely to happen. I mean, not just possible, no, not just probable,
Hmm.
possible, but the most likely. Because you can imagine, I know the alien abduction, it's possible, but it's not likely that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the most likely that's going to happen, and where you think that can happen, and how do you think
Yeah.
that can happen? That's the most important question we do before the operation, both on the courses, because our courses are also the operations,
Yeah.
that we do in real. And it's amazing how difficult it turns to be that the agents or the students give the right answer, because you just say, okay, that's I know it can be a carjacking, like where exactly, which one of the places, because we have a
Yeah.
big roads where you think that carjacking is going to happen most likely. So they need to think where that
Yeah.
can be. And then there are two questions, as you said. The first question is how you're going to avoid that, what you're going to do in that place to avoid be carjacked. So are you going to have in this specific place more space with the next vehicle? Are you going to be more alert, point and check in? And if the person is approaching, then what you're going to do. So in each one of the places he needs to answer, and it's very difficult if you ask them really to do it, because we're just not generally wired to do that. In
Yeah.
executive protection, what we do is just, okay, where are we going? That's the place. We sit in the car and we drive, and that's
Yeah.
it. There is not much thinking of what's going to happen, and that's one of the most important things.
I
There is
think
not much thinking.
it is a mindset, and it does take training, mental agility to, you can plan all of the routes and all of the contingencies, but we know that no plan survives first contact, you know, and like Mike Tyson said, um, you have a great plan until you get punched in the face, right? So I think there is this, risk assessment is about the likelihood of something happening and the impact if it did happen. And you can plan that, in a health and safety sense. You reduce the likelihood of it happening, or you don't do it, or you transfer. You have to have an appetite for that level of risk. You can only reduce the likelihood, and you can only reduce the impact. So, if the likelihood is of a firearms attack, you reduce the impact by wearing body armor. Then you're reducing the likelihood of being killed. You're reducing the impact of being shot. Armored vehicles the same way. But when you're dynamically risk assessing, you have to do all that on gut instinct. And there has to be a gut instinct. And we used to say, you can prepare yourself for it by using a traffic light system. You've planned your route. You know that this bottleneck where, if we're going to talk about carjacking, Well, here is a traffic light system where the road goes to one lane and we are penned in. We've got nowhere to go left and right, and it's a busy road. This is going to be where I need to go from amber on the route to red. And I'm looking now actively for this threat because this point on this route is my bottleneck. This is where it's most likely to happen if it's going to, and the impact will be greater because I cannot escape easily. So I go to red. Once I go through it, I can come down to amber again. If you stay red the whole time, you're going to stress out and be shattered.
Yeah, yeah,
But you have
absolutely.
to go between green, easy, because you're in the office and you can relax a little bit, have a cup of coffee. When you go outside the front door, you need to be amber. If you go to a bottleneck, you go red, and then, that's the way I used to manage it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are different there are different scales in situational awareness, but what it's common in all that you that exactly that you said, you cannot have the same level of situational awareness all the time in the operation, because
Yeah,
first it's impossible. Second, it's a so big cognitive charge that you just
yeah,
can't take it. So that's the thing I was talking on right now in my guys. If you consider it going to be carjacking, that's the place that you have need to have a higher level of conscious of the awareness and the possibility to respond, because
yeah,
otherwise you just in Mexico the people are working sometimes 17 hours a day, executive
yeah,
protection. So
yeah,
it's the awareness is necessary going low, so you kind of need to do to you need to kind of rely of all this previous preparation, because you don't want to rely on the things that you can do on the spot, because they are going to hit you in the face.
yeah,
So if you reduce the opportunity to get in a situation where you can get that hit in the face,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
that's something we want to avoid.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Nobody likes getting hit in the face. Not when you're as pretty as this, right?
Of course.
So you recall the presentation I gave in Mexico City around my degree dissertation, which was
Yeah, that
about
was wonderful.
matching the CPO with a CEO principle, and I did talk in that, about stress, because having a having to put this persona on that is super vigilant, it's tiring, it's stress, and we know that stress manifests itself as illness. you know Lots of there's theories that cancer and other illnesses are stress related, and you can't be a stressy person if you're going to be an executive protection officer. You've got to be able to deal with things in a calm way. And you can learn that. I mean, they talk about emotional intelligence, talking about empathy, understanding that the way you interact with your principal is going to have an impact on the way your principal interacts with you. If you are stressy and agitated, they don't want to be around you, and they're not going to treat you the way you deserve to be treated. And if they are stressy with you, you're not going to form a relationship with them that's based on transformational leadership. And therefore, you're not going to go outside the box to protect them. You'll just do what you have to do because you're being paid to do it. Do you see that?
Well, first, Rick, the important thing is to point out that we are talking about elite operators. I
Yeah,
mean, in the order to be executive protection professional, you need to be an elite operator. And through the history of humankind, the elite operators in the security work, so to say, from the samurais to the Templar Knights, so you name it, they have all a very strong philosophy and spiritual practice.
right.
Medic,
Yeah,
I mean, Musashi was doing meditation, he was painting, calligraphy, and that kind of things. So that's why the most important thing is to understand that the real executive protection, high level executive protection professional is a high level operator, it is elite operator, and it's the person who needs not just the physical skills, he needs the emotional intelligence, he needs to have some basic skills in the breathing techniques, meditation, the ability to deal with stress, and that's something that's not just coming out of my mind. It's
Yeah, yeah.
that's thousands of years of history in this kind of situation. So the communication skills in executive protection are the most important. That kind of what we call the cognitive operation, so to say, because
Yep, keep going.
generally our protectee, or generally we consider there are soft skills and hard skills, and that, well, soft skills are important, hard skills are important, and soft skills is something like, they're not the soft skills, that's a cognitive operation in which we uh, and lately we all hear that for example, China is right now investing, I don't know how much, thousands of dollars in establishing the cognitive dominion of this and that area.
Yeah.
So cognitive war is now one of the important topics, and the cognitive dominion is also very important in executive protection, because generally the executive protection operator have more or less zero influence on the protectee. Frequently, why? Because and generally you can hear, at least in Latin America, okay, we want to do this and this and that, but the protectee doesn't understand, and the protectee doesn't understand. How can
Yep.
protectee don't understand? They're smart people. It's not that they don't understand, but you don't know how to explain them. You don't know how to profile them. You don't know how to approach them. You don't know how to talk with them based on their profile and their needs. So that's that's very important thing that you just mentioned.
I absolutely concur with you. I'm going to show two books now, and I'm going to show these to the viewers while you get a copy of your book so they can see what that looks like. You have one on the shelf behind you, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah.
So I believe this book here, I wish I could show you the front, but this is the first
Yeah, I
edition
can see it.
copy. The Anatomy of Courage. This book was written by there it is, by, if you can see that, Lord Moran in 1917, and this guy coined the phrase shell shocked, which became PTSD in modern parlance. But what I want you to take away from this is stress. When it manifests, people that are too stressed usually become is because they're pushed into stressful situations over and over and over and over. And if you're a leader of an executive protection team, what Lord Moran said was, you need to, he says, everybody starts with a like a bottle of courage, right? So let's say this is my bottle of courage, and depending on my upbringing in my childhood and my life, I could start with this water is the courage. This is my level of courage that I started with because I didn't have a great upbringing and I'm not particularly courageous, whatever. And and Ivan has this much courage. His bottle is full because he had a great stable background, loving parents, was reinforced, and he's a good moral compass and so on. He doesn't stress easy. But if I start here with courage and I'm in constant fear or stressful situations, and every time I'm in a situation I use a little bit, eventually I'm going to cream in. I'm going to have an episode where I don't want to go to work, and so on. But also, see, for Ivan, if his courage starts here, and you keep putting him through danger and stressful situations without respite, he's going to cream in as well. This book was given by General de Villiers, who led the British troops in the First Gulf War. When he was the commanding officer of 22 SAS, he gave a copy of this book to every officer that passed Special Forces selection, so they could understand that even a Special Forces operator, if you keep putting them into danger and stress, they eventually will cream in. And this is what he found in trench warfare. It's what this book was about in the front in France, 1917. The other book I love is this book, The Human Element, which talks about the four resistances to your good ideas. So you will be trying to influence your client to do this to make themselves safer, to do that to not raise their profile, and they will say, and they will be one of four things will happen. You can't tell me what to do. That's the first one. I've always done it this way and I'm not changing, so you can't tell me. The others are about fear and anxiety, that, you know, now fear will make them not do it, and anxiety about change is also the other thing. So if you want to learn how to coerce people to do things the way you want them to do it, this is the book I would recommend. Before I wrap this up, I want people to see your book, because your book is excellent, and I think
Thank you so much.
yeah, no. This is, oh, take it back a little bit. There it is. I think what I like about this is it's a common sense, and everything we've talked about today, thanks mate, is there to be read. And if you are looking to professionally develop yourself in executive protection, I think hopefully what you take away from this session was you've got to use your brain. It's all very well if you can fight 10 men, good luck if you can. I've never met anybody that can. But if you can avoid or deter by using counter surveillance, using intelligence and counterintelligence, by planning, but also dynamically risk assessing, then you will never have to use your fists or a weapon, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the main thing. That's what we want to do.
Mate.
You know, the alternative is fatal. I mean, that's why that's something that we live in Mexico, and thank you for the opportunity to share this, because people, it looks like they don't care about it. We have so many people dying in executive protection in Mexico because of that mindset. So that's very important what you're bringing from, and your comments, and the opportunity to talk about it, because this is something that saves lives, and that's what we need.
And we will, we'll broadcast this. Will be of interest, and will be watched by people in Latin America, no doubt, across the US because of IPSB, and certainly in the UK because of optimal risks profile. And these sort of sessions are continuous professional development. But we can only deliver this sort of thing. I can only deliver this when people like you are willing to give your time to deliver their thoughts. It is not the gospel according to Ivan Ivanovich or Rick Mounfield. It is just our perspective, and something you can take and put in your toolbox. Consider it against all the other things that you're reading, but just please be reading, be watching, be listening, and upskill yourself so that you become a better executive protection professional. It has been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. You've got a whole working day ahead of you. It's the end of my working day. What time is it there now? Probably 12:30.
Yeah, 11:30. 11:30.
11:30. Okay, so it's 20 past 5 here.
But it's
I've
Friday,
got my dinner.
But it's Friday.
And a beer. Friday. I've got my dinner and a beer waiting for me.
Wonderful.
I will catch up with you again very soon, mate. But thanks again for your time. And to everybody that's listening, thanks for dialing in. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.